Hey, this is Josh from Wave Casual, and in this video I'd like to give you a quick introduction to Nylon, our geometry-based synthesizer. Nylon's oscillators use geometric shapes to generate the waveforms. You control the sound of the oscillators by defining these shapes and morphing between them. A bit simplified, you can imagine the waveform being generated by traveling along the path and using the direction at each point as the sample value. This method has a couple of nice properties. First, the circle maps to a sine wave, as you would expect. Second, shapes that are symmetric on one axis map to waveforms that are spectrally similar to a sawtooth wave. Shapes that are symmetric on both axes are similar to square waves. In between lies a wonderfully weird space of waveforms that is just waiting to be explored. Nylon's signal flow follows the tradition of subtractive synthesizers. The synth has two subtractive sound generation lanes, A and B, each with their own oscillator, filter, and amplifier. You control how much of the signal of each oscillator flows into each of the filters by adjusting the filter's mix parameter. The current version contains two effects: chorus and delay. The chorus creates variably time-delayed copies of the original signal and mixes them together, fattening and widening the sound. The delay also creates time-delayed copies of the signal, but on a larger time scale. With a couple of milliseconds up to a couple of seconds of delay, the copies appear as echoes, like sound bouncing off hard objects in the real world. On the bottom of the interface, you'll find 6 color-coded modulators. The red and pink modulators are hardwired as amp envelopes. The other 4 modulators have no default assignment, and you can use them for whatever you want. To modulate a parameter, just click and drag from the colored circle on the bottom and release the mouse on the parameter you wish to modulate. Once you release, a colored indicator will appear on the control to show how much the modulation is affecting the parameter. On hover, you'll also see a colored dot. Click and drag on the dot to adjust the modulation amount. Right-click the dot to remove the modulation entirely. Okay, let's use what we learned to make our first sound. When I load up the default patch, what we get is a simple sine wave. Before I start building the sound, let's disable all the modules that we don't use for now. This will help us to keep track of what's going on. Now I'll create 2 shapes for oscillator A and modulate the morphing by the yellow envelope. To fatten it up, I'll pitch oscillator B down an octave and detune it slightly. Let's make the shapes a bit more interesting and apply an LFO to create some movement. Note that while there's already a ton of movement in this sound, so far we have only modulated the shapes of the oscillators and there's no filter involved. But as everyone loves the good old resonant low pass, let's enable the filter and modulate the cutoff frequency. I'm already quite happy at this point, but let's give the sound a bit more space by enabling the chorus. To see how our creation does in the context of a musical composition, I'm adding some other tracks done with Nylon's presets, like Sunrise in Space. Finally, don't forget to save your creation. you want to share it with the community, leave the checkbox on the bottom left of the dialog ticked. That's it for today. Thanks for watching and enjoy making music.